Good morning, it's March 10th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. When Donald Trump began his second term as president, he vowed to cut government spending. He brought in Elon Musk and created the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. It became a lightning rod for both sides of the aisle. Republicans cheer Musk and his team on, while Democrats make him the poster child for everything they object to in this effort to cut spending. The underlying root of this problem is how parties view government. To Republicans, it's a necessary evil that should be limited and kept as small as possible. It should not be intrusive in their lives, and the free market of capitalism should dictate how we as a nation operate and flourish. To Democrats, government is an essential tool, and it should be there to help those that need help, and it should regulate society to ensure that nobody is abusing someone else. Democrats like big government, and Republicans detest it. And that brings us back to DOGE. What exactly is it accomplishing? That depends on who you ask and who you want to believe. The reports are out there that DOGE has saved between $65 and $90 billion so far. Musk and his team set a goal of $2 trillion, and I'm assuming that's over a 10-year budget cycle. The amount I just quoted was for 1 year. But what DOGE is doing has far more important ramifications. It's putting the federal bureaucracy on notice that their spending habits are being looked at and carefully reviewed. USAID was a classic example. Some of the things that USAID was spending money on were absolutely ridiculous and out of bounds. Democrats have been in an uproar about how do you defend some of these spending programs. $4.5 million to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan, $25 million to promote green transportation in the country of Georgia, $6 million to transform digital spaces to reflect feminist democratic principles, and $50 million plus for various LGBTQ programs around the world. And this list will go on and on. It was simply an agency that had lost its purpose in many ways. Now, there are many valid programs being funded by USAID, but placing the funding under the direction of the State Department, it better coordinates with the foreign policy goals of the United States. Democrats have argued that USAID spending was less than 1% of the U.S. budget, but how does that justify spending it on those type of programs? Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced over the weekend that 83% of USAID contracts would be eliminated, and the remaining 17% would be funded. They would be administered under the guidance of the State Department and would be in accordance with the foreign policy goals of the nation. Now, probably the most frustrating argument I've heard against DOGE's cuts is that federal workers are losing their jobs. Of course, I feel sorry for anyone who loses a job. It's a scary moment for anyone, causing huge upset for themselves and their families. But this isn't new. Under President Obama, multiple regulations led to tens of thousands of job losses. People with no training who had been in coal mines or worked in factories their entire lives lost their jobs with just a few days' notice. Entire communities were devastated by Obama and Biden-era policies. In some cases, they were quite proud of it. And here's the reality of the issue. The American public is cheering this effort on. They firmly believe that there's significant waste in the government, and any effort to root it out and eliminate, it's just fine with them. President Trump has talked about passing the DOGE savings on to taxpayers in the form of a rebate check. Now, basically, somebody wrote that might amount to $450 a person based on the current amount. While that might be politically advantageous, it would not be in sync with accomplishing the task of reducing government spending. It's just taking the money in one place and spending it in another. Now, in my opinion, there are two big pots of money out there that DOGE could be looking at and find some large savings. The Department of Defense has not passed a real audit in years, and we've all heard stories about costly expenditures at some DOD for some basic items. Defense contractors have gotten cozy with the contracting offices and inflated prices knowing they can get away with it. The second huge pot of money is in the area of government consulting contracts. Booz Allen Hamilton is a beltway bandit that derives 98% of its income from government contracts. That's billions and billions of dollars that flow from government agencies into the coffers of this behemoth consulting group. But Booz Allen is not the only consulting group feeding off the government. A recent study showed that the top 10 firms in this arena are feasting on $65 billion a year in contracts. And Booz Allen leads the way with just over $10 billion. Democrats are defending the wrong side of this issue. The voters out there believe the federal government's become too big and bloated. They believe they waste money, and in the world of politics, perception becomes reality. Instead of trying to scare people by claiming Republicans are going to cut off their Medicare and Social Security, they should be working with them to find ways to make government leaner and more efficient. They should send a signal to federal workers. They have to be evaluated and perform their jobs similarly to how those in the private sector are evaluated. They should be joining Republicans in demanding that federal workers come back to the office. DOGE will find more waste and abuse. Will it total the number they think they'll find? I don't know the answer, but I do know that as long as Democrats resist this effort, they're losing votes, and they don't seem to realize it. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.